Well, good morning, or good evening, or good afternoon, or whenever you happen to be listening to this, man. Welcome back to another episode of the Mr. Healthy Habit Show. My healthy habsters, I am glad to have the opportunity here today to speak to you on some of the lectures and audiobooks and personal life experiences that I've had throughout the years. And I thank you for joining me again. So, what are we going to talk about today? I feel that today it's important that we continue our thoughts from the previous couple of episodes where we discussed who are we, where we discussed the nature of the self. We have competing philosophies here and a paradox among the philosophical personal development community. And those paradoxes are one thought that I am a biological chemical collection of many trillions of microorganisms, cells and neurons working together for survival that create this illusion of consciousness of a self. The other competing philosophy is that, okay, if I'm an illusion, well, then who is the illusion? Okay, so you're an illusion. Well, there you are. That's still something. An illusion is still a thing. That's more than just nothing. So this morning or evening or what have you, I'm going to share my personal thoughts on the matter because this is a question that has been racking my brain for some time now. And I appreciate you listening because it gives me the opportunity to get this out and to share with you. You see, for me, the way I look at it is, on one hand, we are in ever-changing continua. We are not the same thing moment to moment. We have different thoughts, a different body, different memories. And we are fundamentally a different person moment to moment and retain no identity over time. Therefore, we are selfless. But then there is the question, of course, who changes moment to moment? Who is selfless? So the best answer that I've been able to come up with here is that we are a story. That's what we are. We have no identity, but are rather a story that exists in time. We do change moment to moment and are not the same thing moment to moment. We're different pages in a book, moment to moment, ever changing, ever growing, ever becoming a new thing. I'm not the same person that I was before I started this podcast. I'm not the same person I was before I was listening to these philosophy books. I am fundamentally a different person, but it's still my story. And from here, the philosophical battle does continue. Because on one hand, I'm a story. On the other hand, I'm not necessarily a story. That's not really fair to say and not the message that I want to convey here. I'm more a part of a story. I'm a continua of a grand cosmic story that's been going on long before I arrived and will be continuing long after I'm gone. You see, when you get to the question, why am I here? What's the purpose of my story? Why am I here? Well, very simply put, the reason why I'm here is because my mother and my father got together so many years ago and had birth to a child. That's why I'm here. That's why we're all here. We're just part of a grand cause and effect nexus that existed in a manner where we just had to be so. My parents got together many years ago, so I had to be so. There's no other reason why I'm here other than my role in this grand cosmic continua. They gave birth to a child, and that was me. Therefore, I'm here. Now, my life continues on through the ripples in time that I've created. Mainly, you can argue through my kids. They're here because I created them. I had to create them. That is just the way my life has been working out over so many years. My past experiences and influences in my life dictated that I was to meet my wife and we would get together and have a kid. There was no avoiding that. The story is my story, but it has already been written. And again, I'm only part of this story. I'm a continua of a grand cosmic story that began with my parents' parents, and so on. See, these ideas that I'm sharing here with you, this podcast is part of my story. It's part of the continua. It's part of a grand cosmic story. This exists because of the many influences that have entered my life that have compelled me to create this. It's not necessarily a continua for my mother and father. In some respects it is, but it's also a continua from Marcus Aurelius and the ripples in time that he left, the Buddha, Lao Tzu, and the many different philosophers that I have studied that have left their ripples throughout the universe that have affected me and contributed to the cause and effect nexus that I have a small, minute part of, that spurned me to create this episode here that you are now listening to, which is going to have an effect on you, causing you to go out and do things in your life in the world. That is how we fit in the grand cosmic role that we exist in the universe that has manifested us. Deepak Chopra, I am the universe manifesting itself as a human and observing itself. That is very much true. Now, I'll tell you why I believe that and what exactly I believe that means. Now, if you study Lao Tzu and the Tao Te Ching, you will learn that we cannot necessarily look at ourselves as our own unique story and have to see that we are a continua of a story. You see, what happens is when I say this is my story, I pick myself out and put myself in the foreground, and now everything else is in the background. And by doing so, I distort my reality. I distort the reality of everything around me, and now look at the world in a subject-object type of mentality. I look at myself as the subject, and everything else in the world is objects around me. And that is a distortion of reality. We really are one and the same and part of everything. Everything has its contribution to the cause and effect nexus that is the continua of the universe. So it's not necessarily fair. It's a distortion for me to pull myself out and say, this is my story, I'm in the foreground, and everything else happens around me. Everything in the universe has contributed to my life. Everything over the course of the last 13.8 billion years has to happen exactly the way it did for me to get to this exact point in time. You see, that is what we are. That is what we are fundamentally. We are not necessarily an illusion. We are a continua. We do change moment to moment. But the universe has manifested something in us that has contributed to this cause and effect nexus and has been affected by it. So we have to be something. So I guess the grand takeaway here, I guess many different thoughts, many different feelings that I've expressed here to you guys. And if I had to pick something out, as the takeaway from all of this that I would like to emphasize here today is that we are all one and the same. We are all part of a grand cosmic existence. We are not a subject and everything else is the objects. We are very much part of it all. We're all in this together. Everything that we do in our lives is going to contribute to this cause and effect nexus that I've been speaking about here, that will have ripples in time. That is our existence going on into the universe, and hopefully the better. Hopefully for the better. So when you go about your life, just realize that everything that you do is going to have an effect on the universe. And whether or not our lives have meaning is dictated by the effects that we leave that will persist through time. Did we leave this universe a better place or did we not? And regardless whether you did or you didn't, the important thing also here to remember is that we're just part of a continua, part of a story. That's just the story that we were meant to tell here. That's the story that has been brewing for billions of years, that we were a part of, that we spurned on into the future and continued on. We'll continue this topic because there's still so much more that's left to be said on the matter. I have to recompose my thoughts and figure out exactly where I want to take this discussion from here. But there will be follow-up episodes. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for joining me. And again, follow me at philosophical.reminders, Mr. Healthy Habits on YouTube, wherever you've got this podcast. Thanks again. You guys have a freaking great day, man, because I feel freaking awesome. And I hope you do too.